Hi, it's Carrie Kenner, and welcome to the weekly vlog. So, I'm going to be talking this week about family because I am still riding high from the epic Thanksgiving that I just had with my family. So, I have three sons. I'm a boy mom, and I have nine grandchildren ranging in age from 23 to 5. And first, all my grandchildren lived near me because my sons all live near me, thankfully. And then as my grandchildren started to get older, some shifts started to happen, and one granddaughter moved away, another moved away, two of my grandsons moved away. So it's been a long time since all our family has gotten together. Plus, I also now have three great grandchildren, and one of them lived far away with their mom, and then she just moved back to the area, and she just had a second great grandbaby, and I actually got to be at that birth. And then I also have another great grandbaby who was born to one of my grandchildren who live far away. So I got to meet one new grandbaby, great grandbaby, for the first time, and have all of my grandkids together and all of my sons. And it was phenomenal. It was just amazing. And what was really, really sweet is this was the first time that all of the older grandkids are now all adults. And so seeing them hang out and interact as like real grown adults in the world was just warmed my heart so much. So I have a really awesome picture. I think I'm going to be able to splice it in to be able to have it show as part of this video so you can see me and all my grandkids together. Another thing that was really interesting about our Thanksgiving is that we in our family have a way of dealing with ex relationships pretty well. Now, when somebody breaks up in a relationship, there's usually a period where it's not fun, it's painful. There's maybe some harsh words spoken or some, negative ideas and thoughts thrown around. But after a while, we kind of get over it and deal with it. So one of my sons has had a number of significant others in his life, and all four of them were together at Thanksgiving. We've done Christmases together. I love every single one of what I call my daughters-in-law, even if they're not my daughters-in-law anymore, they still are to me, where we all love each other so much. And it's a way of being. So my ex-partner, the father of my two oldest sons, he was there. We hadn't been together in 33 some years. My ex-husband was invited, but he wasn't able to come. But we really try to make the best of the ways that relationships weave in and out of our lives. And I often tell people who aren't with an ex anymore and kind of like talk shit about them, like, you're the one who chose to be with that person. You always have to remember it comes back to you. You chose to be with that person and you made a mistake and maybe you got out of it and those kind of things. But when you're talking mess about somebody else, you're also talking mess about yourself and the choices that you've made. So let's keep it real, keep it compassionate, let's keep ourselves open-hearted. And it's interesting when I watch other families that go through breakups and it's just so painful and all these ties are cut and the way that it impacts children. And I'm just really proud of the way that we get to show how relationships can shift and change and that our kids learn that and that my kids have learned that. I learned it from my parents. They've learned it from me. And hopefully it will continue. Hopefully there won't be a lot of breakups. But if there do, hopefully our way of dealing with them positively will continue. The other thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to family is how important families are. Now, we hear that a lot. But I like to think of the way that our families are important to us is that it is literally the place that we learn how to be human. So when a baby is born, it knows nothing of how to be human. It has innate reactions and things that it's able to do. It's able to suckle, it's able to lift its head. Babies are able to do certain things basically to keep themselves alive. And then as they are able to start observing what's around them and noticing how the world is and how people are and how the people that are around them behave, they are learning how to be. They're literally developing the neural pathways by watching people. We have these mirror neurons that show us, that allow us to copy what we're seeing. So for the first few years of a person's life, they are learning from the people around them how to act like a human, how to behave, how to be, what to do, what we say, how we react to things. All these things are being programmed, and they're pre-verbal, so they're really deep. We're not conscious of them. We're not conscious of the ways that we learn speech patterns or food likes or dislikes, which are also biological. There's just so many things that babies are learning, and they're learning a lot in a really fast and short period of time, the first 2 years of life. And then as they start to get verbal, then the kind of left part of the brain, the logical part of the brain, starts to kick in. And though children don't have reason for many years still, they start to develop the capacity to have reasoning. And reasoning, while reasoning is so important in what I'm talking about, is because that's the time that we can look at those behaviors and patterns and things that we learned, if we have enough insight to observe them, to be curious about them, to say, I wonder why I do that. I wonder why my parents do that. I wonder why my grandparents do that. Maybe start to see the patterns. Now, again, this isn't going to happen for many, many years yet, but the logical reasoning part of the brain starts to come online as kids are kind of getting into, elementary school age. And during this time, they are definitely being impacted by other people around them. So again, kids who go to school or out in the community and they see how other families do things. They're learning from other kids and teachers and other people that have influence over them. They're getting exposed to more ways to be human. And then when people start to get into their teenage years, a really important process of individuation happens. It's when we try to become individuals. We start to recognize ourselves even as individuals, and we start to form our own ideas and opinions. And this is where those things that we grew up with become really important, because we have to notice, when I was a child, I learned X, Y, and Z. And maybe I was told X, Y, and Z explicitly, or through the process of deduction, by looking at the things going on around me, I realized we don't do this. We do this. Moms always do this. Dads always do this. Young people are like this. Old people are like that. We start to form these kind of black and white rules of engagement, the way that we think the world is. And again, when we're too young to be able to reason or think about these things logically, look, we just kind of gobble it all down and take it hook, line, and sinker. In the teenage years, we start to go, I wonder. I thought that was the way it is, but I just saw something that completely showed that that was wrong or different. And now we're at a crossroads. Now we get to decide, do I want to keep believing that thing or not? Now, the thing is there's big stakes at play here. If I stop believing something that my family believes, and I show that difference, even though most people hopefully would not be literally ostracized from their family, the emotional sense is I may not be safe. I may not be protected. If I don't fit in, if I don't belong, I'm more vulnerable. And all humans have this innate sense of what it is to be vulnerable and the knowledge of how important it is to belong for our safety. Because even teenagers who are quite capable of doing many things, they usually can't be in the world alone and support themselves. And young children certainly can't. And that's one of the reasons that young children are so what's the word I want? They're so easily manipulated. Not only do they not have reason to think things through, but they also have that really strong sense of, I better do what everyone else around here is doing so that I fit in, so that I can belong and be taken care of. So back to the teenagers. So they're starting to try out different ideas. And here's where they can start to make choices of being different and doing different things and having some sense of being okay with that, or at least being able to defend their ideas. And then as those teenagers age into adulthood, and then they actually do leave home or go to college or start to move and take care of themselves independently in the world, that's when people start to really make different ideas and changes in their ideology that might be different from their family. And that's why Thanksgivings can be so tenuous, is because you never know what kind of different opinions are going to be gathering around a table or in the same room. So when I'm thinking about families and this process of becoming and how we learn from our families, we also know stories of people who really have broken ties with their families. And I'm not talking so much about, chosen partnership type relationships. Now I'm talking about familial ties, either with the parents or the people who were our primary caregivers or siblings, the people that we didn't have choices about who were called family members. And when those fundamental rules of engagement, rules of how it is to be human, are questioned, those are our core values, and they run really deep, and may not be aware of them. We may not know where the patterns came from, and it can be really threatening to people. And when people aren't aware of this process that I'm talking about, or they don't have the insight to notice what are patterns, what are things that they just have always done and never questioned. When people can start to have those insights and look at themselves, look at their family and say, what do I want to keep or maintain from my kind of family of origin? And what do I want to shift? I have this amazing story of a family lineage that I needed to really address, I needed to understand, and I needed to heal. I'm not going to tell it today. I'm going to tell it in a future blog because my family has some major history. And I went on this literal retreat to explore and commune with my ancestors and find out what the fuck happened, and to be the one to kind of draw the line in the sand and say, it's stopping with this generation. But I had to understand that process deeply to be able to have the awareness, make the choices, and communicate those to the rest of my family to say, this shit is stopping with this generation. We're not going to keep doing this anymore. So that's the power of knowing this process and knowing the family and embracing the family and understanding what our families have done for us and being able to make different choices as adults. And so that brings me to chosen families. So my middle son got married a few months ago, and it was a destination wedding, and it was hard for almost all the family members to get to this destination wedding for a number of different factors. So the majority of the people at this wedding were my son and daughter-in-law's best friends. And these folks are amazing. Like, I just sit back and I'm so happily envious and jealous of the relationship and the friendships and the social life that these folks have. They travel together, they have kids together, they all hang out together, and they just have this really very rich and deep and tightly woven circle of friends. And this is a chosen family. Like, they all call me mom. I all call them my sons and daughters, and my grandkids. All the little kids call me Grandma Carrie, like all my grandkids do. And the power of those chosen families is magical, because it's the people that we find that do share our values, that we do have commonalities with, wherever they came from, whether they came from all these other families of origin or whether they were chosen paths in people's adult lives. But to see people find those connections and nurture those connections so that more people belong in the family than whoever was just given birth to is really a beautiful thing. And so this Thanksgiving, because it was so huge with all the family members, didn't involve a lot of the chosen family. In most holidays that we celebrate, it's a beautiful mix of family of origin and chosen family, and just all these people that have come together around pure love, chosen love. It's an amazing thing. So anyways, that's what I wanted to share today. Family, love, choosing, awareness, facing family patterns and knowing that you have the power to change them, but it's going to take a little bit of work. All of these things make us into more expansive, compassionate human beings. And that is what I wish for us all. So thank you for listening. Have a great week. go give somebody a hug.